Okay, so today's book, the second to last Clique book, My Little Phony by Lacey Harrelson. Did I get glitter on you? I must have. Okay, so I read this book in about a week. So let's read the back of the book. Sugar, spice, and everything lice. Massey Block. The holidays are just around the corner, and the only thing Massey doesn't want for Christmas is a lip kiss from her 9th grade crush Landon. Not that she'd ever admit it, but she's nervous. To distract herself, Massey focuses on getting revenge on Claire for ditching the pretty committee, but when the plan to bug her ex-BFF backfires big time, she may find herself headed for a Merry Kissmas, whether she likes it or not. Alicia Rivera promised her parents she wouldn't shop at all between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Her reward? An all-expense-paid trip to the Spanish Riviera. What happens when she sees the cutest pair of Ralph Lauren sunglasses? No pain, no Spain. Okay, we'll get back to why that's weird in a second. Dylan Marvel. After going overboard at Westchester Mall, Dylan isn't worried about the size of her clothes, but she is worried about the size of her clothing budget. Credit denied. Kristen Gregory is sick of being the only poor girl in Westchester, but misery loves company, and maybe, just maybe, she won't be the only broke member of the pretty committee for long. Claire Lyons. When Massey scares off her new drama friends with a fake lie scare, Claire decides she's done letting Massey bully her. The alpha may have exterminated Claire's social life, but what goes around comes around. The raid is on, and it won't be until a fat ladybug sings. Okay, so everything about the back of this box is Aggie, very agitating, because we have another set of books where it is a Claire and Massey set of books. The rest of the girls are simply mindless drones going, hold up, this is why I got the dolls. This is why I got the dolls. Oh my god, hold up, I'm Massey. Fuck Claire. Oh my god, yes, fuck Claire. Fuck Claire. Claire, our friend? Fuck Claire. Fuck that girl. Credit cards. And then talking about credit card limits, that doesn't come up for any, that's not, because Alicia, Dylan, and Kirsten, don't tell me these aren't accurate, are just stopgaps, just around. They don't have anything to do, which I guess makes it hard to make a back of the book, but this one was really just like, these girls are simply set dressings. They're very cute. If you don't watch my doll content, I'm sorry, but because she's purple, she gets to be Massey. And she's my favorite because she's pink, and she gets to be Claire. So I don't know, this book I actually really enjoyed until I read the back of this book, and now I'm Aggie again, I'm agitated. But it's not a good, if we're rating it on like friendship ability, low tier. If we're rating it on a revenge story that I think would make an amazing Netflix movie, absolutely. I don't know if Lacey ever knew when her last book was coming. I'm very confident she knew here. I think she knew by this point that this was the second to last, and then that one was, you don't know what that one is, because that happens at the end of the book, and that the last book was going to be the last book. Like, we are building, My Little Phony builds to a frenzied pitch. And I really like this book. I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think this book has the same, like, it elicits the same feelings in me that, oh god, here we go, that Dial L for Loser did. Just like hater energy, but it was like Massey doesn't win in the end. And I think maybe that's part of it, is Massey doesn't win. She's just kind of there. These books weren't as traumatizing or like re-traumatizing as I thought they were gonna be. I feel like I made up a scene where they're like in the lunchroom all together, and then the whole like period thing happened. But like periods get brought up in Dial L for Loser, and then in The Pretty Committee Strikes Back with Lane starting her period and just dumping bloody underwear everywhere. That's crazy. That is traumatizing for me, but we all know she didn't actually do it, so but I felt like it was a bigger topic of conversation in each book. Like now I can just look back at these books and say, that's crazy, or that's really mean, or that's traumatizing, or that's really stupid. But nothing was like the anxiety I thought I was going to feel, you know, rereading the section where she talks about where she gets her first period and all that, so. I also put these little clippets on my Instagram story, and, well, when TikTok finally gets banned, I will put them on my Instagram story. Right now, they just live on my TikTok stories, because that's generally where I get the most interaction. You could not pay me to open up Instagram. Only my most insufferable mutuals appear there for some reason, and then I just say, and I leave. So yeah, I'm not always gonna be there, but you know. Yeah, if you want a sneak peek of whatever I'm reading or working on or whatever media I'm thinking about or talking about, you can check out my stories. And I tend to post on my YouTube community tab a lot. Okay, so we did. Let's go. Okay, so at the end of the last book, Massey and Claire declares war on Claire. They declare war on each other. And normally Massey gets mad at Claire, and then Claire goes, oh. Where's Baby Arm? There she is. Oh, Massey, I'm so sorry. Oh, like, Massey is like, I literally violated the Geneva Convention, and I bought your family home, and now I've made it into a playroom for Bean. And then Claire's like, oh, and I was mad about that, and said you were mean. Oh, you're both wrong. Oh, I apologize. Well, I'm glad you apologize. I'm glad we can be friends again. Like, she doesn't even acknowledge it. Truly, it's the most frustrating thing. And I'm not even mad at Massey, because Massey's gonna be Massey. But it's like, Massey's gonna be Massey. Boss up, girl. Be a better you. Could you imagine if I made a crown made out of LOL surprise baby heads? Be still my beating creative heart. I want to do something unhinged with a shit ton of LOL surprise dolls. But this time, Claire's decided to fight back, and similarly, it's like, she's finally fighting back, and she's getting nasty with it. Instead of just being like, I'm sorry, I was friends. You made me make friends with 9th graders, and now you're mad at me for being friends with 9th graders. You're mad at me. Sure, girl boss, sure. I guess. Like, she used to do small forms of resistance, like she's gonna be friends with Lane no matter what. which, you know, one thing is Lane has almost always remained Claire's friend. We've never had, like, her not be Claire's friend, which is good. But, you know my distaste for Lane. I don't quite care for Job. And this book came out August 2010. So at the end of the last book, Claire's made friends with the 9th graders. It's been like 2 weeks and she's still friends with them. They're all hanging out. It starts with Massey and the pretty committee all hanging out. Sans Claire. And Claire's outside doing, whatchamacallit, doing snow things with her new drama club friends. She's like, I don't need the pretty committee. I have my own friends. It's not the end of the world. And which is wild. And Massey's like, this means or. So what are we gonna do? Crime. Massey gets a text while she's over at the sleepover with the rest of the pretty committee from Landon. All the girls start sending, like, typing in, which is wild. You could shout it out, but don't type it. Typing up these, like, wild replies. And she accidentally sends out one of the horniest ones. He invites her over to his birthday on Tuesday, so Saturday, Tuesday. It's time capsule this is. So they're all making fucking H1N1 jokes. Remember when, like, endemics were funny and not, in fact, devastating, world-altering, lifetime-altering, like, millions of people have died, like, traumatizing multiple members of your family and making you realize that some people you know are complete idiots? Remember? So while they're doing that, over to the pretty committee slumber party to go instigate shit. Massey's like, yeah, you've got gum in your hair. And he's like, what? And so she shaves his head and then slaps a hat on top of him and then sends him out into the world. What could this mean? Well, Claire's having a sleepover with her friends, and Todd is like, this hat, Massey told me, is for you. So she slaps the hat on her head, whatever. They're in sleepover mode, and then Massey texts Lane and is like, oh my goodness, be careful. Todd has lice. That's why we had to shave his head. And then her high school friends are like, we do not want louse. We do not want scabies. So they leave, and we never hear from them again. You know, I guess that's proof that they weren't, like, true friends, but, like, so there is, it's not really important. There's like a Bill of Rights for 9th grade boys that would have been more interesting for me to read if literally anything about any of this comes up again, but it truly doesn't. But Massey is gonna French kiss that boy at his birthday party. So Claire and Lane are like, revenge? Revenge! So they're about to get in on that. This is about to be a really long one, I can tell. Because we are already at the hour mark and we are only on page 2. Claire, every time Claire thinks maybe she is going to get over what Massey has done to her and just go back and be like, we can be friends, she just remembers what she did to Todd, and she's like, fucking no, blackout. Actually, no. Massey does her on Sunday, Massey does her anti-anxiety mantras, and also an attempt to learn about how to properly kiss. She has a list of notable kisses in cinema. I will read them to you. The Miss Kiss, Spider-Man, 2003. Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire mysterious Spidey is hanging upside down. She pulls off half his mask and kisses him. The Risk Kiss. Twilight, 2008. Kirsten Stewart and Robert Pattinson. She risks her life to kiss a vampire. And you know, if you don't follow, God, what is her name on here now? Sarah Elizabeth Talks. If you don't follow Sarah Elizabeth Talks on TikTok, currently the theory we're all discussing is the fact that when Edward gets mad, he goes to space because the Cullens don't, you know, they don't need oxygen. But he's also made out of stone, so when you kiss him, it's like kissing a brick. A brick. The Disc Kiss, MTV Music Awards 2009. Kirsten Stewart and Robert Pattinson again. Accepting their award for Best Kiss, Robert ditches his gum and everything, but at the last minute, Kirsten pulls away. Okay, technically not a kiss, but they totally kissed off camera later. No, they didn't. That woman is a lesbian. That's a lesbian. The lesbian did not want to kiss that man anymore. I don't know if she was out in her heart, but I think in her brain, but I knew it. I think her heart knew that she had no business kissing that man, because that was a lesbian. And I love how not knowing what we know now is just like, girl. And also the fact that this had such an alarming effect on the former president. That he was just like, this bitch, and our Chad Sigma Robert Pattinson. I don't do a very good Trump. The Aqua Bliss Kiss, The Notebook, 2005. Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling kissing in the rain. The Hiss Kiss, Gossip Girl, Season 2. Serena kisses Nate at a party to make his cougar girlfriend jealous. Meow. So she does all that research into these kisses and is like, these are what I need to be channeling to get this kiss. So now it is time for revenge. They go to this bug shop. Lane and Claire go to a bug shop. They buy bugs. Again, like I said, every time Claire thinks maybe I'm going too far with this and I shouldn't do it, she's reminded of all the different, she's reminded of what she did to Todd. But on page 56, she does a rundown of all the different things Massey has done to her in particular. So I thought, why don't I share these with you? Normally, Claire wasn't the type to hold a grudge. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. She knew that. But when she looked back over her year and 3 months of friendship with Massey, it was all the bad times that stuck out. Counting the list of Massey-caused grievances was easier than making slice and bake cookies. She started taking them off on her fingers. She insulted the friendship bracelets my friends in Orlando made me by pretending to think they were from kindergarten. She left me in the trunk of the Range Rover on the first day of 7th grade. She told me OCD stood for Orlando Claire equals dork. She asked me if I was invited to her barbecue, and then when I said no, she asked me why I was all up in her grill. This was the first of many, many, many similar insults. Too many to list. Just know it started here. She put red paint on my pants so it looked like I got my period. Remember the nurse character? Remember the nurse character that was definitely in the book up until Dial L for Loser, and then we just totally dropped that cool nurse? She put red paint up. Yeah. She kicked me out of my first sleepover practically by being mean. She said my brown sweatshirt looked like a hooded poo. She said my pink belt made me look like a pink boa constrictor had wrapped itself around my face and then died from shock at how bad my outfit was. She threw salmon at me, if you remember from the first book, the gazpacho incident. She told everyone that our Halloween party was just her party. She said my geeky loser costume was very convincing and asked if I was celebrating Halloween early that year. She said my green apple gummies looked like alien sneeze. She told me that just... No thank you. She told me that just because Matchy Matchy wasn't in, it did not mean that classy... English is so hard. She told me that just because Matchy Matchy wasn't in, it did not mean clashy was. I can only do it with my teeth closed. My big ass teeth. She called me stupid for not knowing that some dressing rooms use super flattering skinny mirrors. She threw out my favorite pair of pants on Earth Day as part of a Beautifying Our Planet campaign. She told me my favorite sweater was making Bean sick because Bean was allergic to ugly. She said that she would have tossed my red sweatshirt in the fire, but she didn't want to release the toxic fumes from when the synthetic fabric and puppy paint melted. She asked if I was getting extra credit in abnormal psychology for being friends with Lane. She said my legs looked like they had candy cane disease when I tried on a pair of striped leggings. She planted Oxy, Jolene face bleach, Depends undergarments, Rogaine, dandruff shampoo, athlete's foot medicine, jock itch cream, and super plus size tampons in the garbage in my trailer on the set of Doll L for Loser, and then videotaped a segment about it for the daily grind to try and convince everyone that I had zits, a mustache, bladder control issues, female baldness, dandruff, athlete's foot, jock itch, and a giant period. Which again, I think is where the traumatizing things I remember. She sent Cam a picture of me kissing Connor Foley on the set of Doll L for Loser to make him think I was cheating on him, which I wasn't. She kicked me out of the pretty committee at least 8 times. She wouldn't speak to me for an entire week when I accidentally thought Bean was a French bulldog instead of a pug. She wouldn't speak to me for 2 hours when I mentioned that her nut allergy only comes out when she doesn't want to eat something. She wouldn't speak to me for 3 days when I decided to hang out with Cam instead of watching Gossip Girl with her. She replaced my bag of licorice whips with red rubber bands. She called my eyebrows the Bush Twins when I had to wear fake brows for Doll L for Loser. That's in It's Not Easy Being Mean. You can't see what I'm pointing at. She said my bangs looked like the top of my head was throwing up hair. She called me Clarence when I wore work boots outside to help my mom garden. There's no such thing as cute curly gardening shoes. Really, there ain't. You just gotta own it and serve cunt. She recommended that I see a plastic surgeon because my right earlobe is bigger than my left one. She recommended that I walk around with weights on my legs to prevent cankles because she thinks my mom has them. She cut up my very favorite BDG hoodie because she ran out of plastic baggies and needed something to pick up Bean's poo with. She threw out an entire stash of gummy lobsters when she decided she was allergic to shellfish. She insulted my overalls even though she complimented the ones Dylan wore. She made fun of my mom's mom jeans. But what else is she supposed to wear? She's a mom. She locked me out of my own room when I didn't vote for her for the Miss Kiss pageant. She hit me with the remote control when she thought I was flirting with Dempsey, her then crush, while on a boy fast. She tried to force me to upgrade Cam with new 9th grade crush. She thought having a crush on a guy with an asymmetrical haircut and a crush on a guy with one blue eye and one green eye would be the same thing. As if. She got mad at me for having 9th grade friends even though she'd been telling me I need to grow up. She shaved my little brothers' head to get back at me. She tried to make my new friends think that I had lice infestation. Damn, that took 4 minutes. So, and she's like, murder actually. Goes for pages and pages. This girl has wronged her. They buy some bugs. Claire and Lane, if you forgot where we were in the middle of that. In Massey's attempt to learn about kissing, she takes Kirsten to go with her to see a Twilight ripoff movie called Dangerous Liaison. Not Dangerous Liaisons, because that's an actual movie. Diabolical Liaisons. Massey's trying to do too much research. She's taking photos of couples kissing. She catches someone cheating. It's a mess. She gets kicked out of the movie theater, and she's like, you know what? This is French kissing, I guess. One in France. So now it's Tuesday. It's time for Massey to go. She tells Isaac to stay around the corner in case she needs to bail out of here quickly. She brings Bean to the house. She lets Bean go. She goes upstairs. He's nervous. She goes, well, hold up, we got a Massey. We'll go with you. This is our lane. This is extra person. So Massey. She goes, well, it's time. well, it's time for your kiss. Turns him around, plants a big wet kiss on him. And then she sees that, what is he doing? Not Lane, I keep calling him Lane. Landon is on a iMac call with his grandparents, in which her grandfather goes, wow, she seems fast, which is like, damn, might as well call me a whore. It is so bad that she just runs out of the house. She's just like, absolutely not. Massey runs to Isaac. She's like, I have to go throw myself under the covers. I do not wish to be a part of this narrative anymore. The narrative of being awake and being alive is simply too much for me to handle. Meanwhile, Lane and Claire are sneaking into the Block estate. She just walks in because she knows the passcode. She takes the bugs and she puts them in Claire's bed. Or not Claire's bed, Massey's bed. And they're like, time to go. Now normally, whenever Claire has had a plan, either for the pretty committee or not for the pretty committee, they barely ever work the first time. She is very rarely ever successful in her plans to do literally anything. But today's a new day, and she's not fueled by love of friends or friendship or feminism. She's being powered by spite. And you know what? She's going for it. Massey comes back. She goes into her bedroom. She's reviewing the list of kisses in her head. And then Massey's iPhone buzzed loudly. Landon? Maybe he was telling her that he had tucked Bean in for the night, or that after some thought he decided he liked the kiss and wanted to video all their kisses. Frantically, she dumped her handbag on her bedspread. Out fell 2 Glossop Girl tubes and a case of peppermint Altoids and the ticket stub to Liaison Diabolique, that's the name of the movie, a mascara, soaked tissue, and finally her iPhone. A text glowed on screen. Alicia, ready to kiss and tell? Ugh! Massey immediately powered down her phone and stuck it in her desk drawer. The only thing that could help her now was short of a time machine was sleep. She slipped into her lavender silk pajamas, then climbed into bed and hid under the soft covers. Bean, is that you? Massey called groggily an hour later, awaking to a light tickle on her leg. Arf! Bean responded from her perch on her doggy bed, a clean 3 feet away from the tickle on Massey's leg. Confused, Massey sat up and snapped her bedside light. She pulled back the covers of her purple duvet and... We're going to do some real voice acting here today. Ah! Continued, you know, just like think about that for... let's see, let's get it nice and... We have lots of ahs. So many ahs. We go to a whole new chapter, and ahs continue here, and also Claire's talking, and she's still hearing screaming. Alright, Claire and Lane are on a video call, and she's screaming. She's still screaming. Claire comes out of the house. The entire Block family is on the front lawn. Massey freaks out, and Claire's like, I love justice, you know? I just love justice. So the next morning, Massey's freaking out. She's itchy, she's scratchy, she's miserable, she's puffy, she's not looking like herself. Her friends are trying to give advice, but she's not having it. She's just so done. Kirsten talks about roaches and the walls of her apartment. Landon keeps trying to get in contact with her and be like, hey, call me, let's talk about this. Can you pick up your dog? I have some cake for you. But Massey just keeps scratching. And as a person who does not like bugs and is also just like a silly, itchy, allergic bitch, It's not a fun time. I also get very anxious at the thought of bugs being attached to me. So Massey heads home. She wants to hang out with her friends. Her friends are not helpful and they don't want to hang out at her house because she has bugs maybe. So Massey heads home, hoping finally to get into bed and, you know, be comfortable. When she finds her house is covered in a circus tent. Her parents are like, hey, we're going to the Bahamas for a week. We'll see you when you get back. You're going to stay with the Lyonses, which is Claire's family, if you didn't know. We're going to the Bahamas while the house gets fumigated. The house has a large fumigation tent, leaving her alone without Isaac or any of her normal accoutrements. So on top of leaving her without Isaac, she doesn't have Inez or her clothing. She goes to Blaine's house. Claire's at home having a good time with Lane and Cam. They're wrapping presents over video chat. They're racing each other to do it the fastest. Massey comes in to go be a bother, and Massey's is just like, she's just a bitch. And I'd like to point to the fact that back in 2021, when I set upon doing my Alpha series, I straight up pondered if it was right, correct, moral to call a 13-year-old a bitch. Now, after a year reading these books, yes, do it. Do it more. Don't do it to actual 13-year-olds, but fictional 13-year-olds can totally get this smoke. Massey is truly a terror in this book, and referring to her as a bitch is the only acceptable way to do so. She ain't got no home training. She ain't raised right. She was raised by no one. She was raised by a credit card and her own self-determination. She ain't got no home training. Baby hand. So like Cam, so Massey is super rude to Claire and Cam is like, hey, be nice. She's just trying to be nice, be chill. And she's like, well, I guess that's why she's hanging out with you. I was like, girl, you had a crush on him first. And Cam is like, is she getting even meaner? Is she getting nastier? It's like, are we upping the ante on how nasty she can be? Yes. Claire finished wrapping the earrings for her mom. This time last year, she had bought a gold lion charm for Massey. The red metallic box it had come in was so pretty. She couldn't even bring herself to wrap it. Massey had immediately put it on her charm bracelet and worn it every day since. Claire had always seen it as the moment they had truly become friends. With a pang, she wondered if Massey had taken it off when she declared war on Claire. Once again, just for a moment, Claire couldn't help but feel guilty. She and Lane had gone too far. But no, Massey brought this on herself by being controlling. She was a bully, and if this was the 5th sequel to Bring It On, this would be the part of the movie where Claire battled back from a bruised ankle, courtesy of Massey tripping her, only to rise to the top of her cheer pyramid during the last seconds of Nationals. She'd fist pump in the air to uber-emotional strains of Taylor's 15, while Massey sat alone in the crowd wearing an ill-fitting sports cap and eating a box of caramel popcorn. And like that cheer champion, Claire refused to feel bad. It was her turn to be on top. Speaking of cheer, I'm in a mood to chit chat with you guys. NCA cheer competitions in Daytona happened this week, and it's been all over my TikTok. Bitches get dropped. I have never seen cheer falls and accidents happen. I wonder how much part of it has to do with the fact that, you know, I think at a certain point your body's just not going to do what it was doing in high school, but also, like, what is happening in the coaching area. I'm obviously not big into cheer, but I am big into drama, and it seems pretty dramatic over there. You can't see my titties. Okay, so because Massey and all her clothing are getting fumigated, she and the pretty committee the next day go to the mall. The pretty committee is pretty much relegated to buying things off of Massey's shopping list so that she can make some outfits while her parents are gone. She's so nasty to them with the shopping list. When they don't find exactly what she's looking for, she's just like, oh, you're useless. You're so useless to me. And she's like, I'm so overwhelmed with trying things on, and what if I'm being bitten up by bugs, that she's like, you know what? I will just buy everything and then I'll try everything on at home. Well, Massey's credit cards decline. Sorry, no credit card. No purchasey. Oh, thank God. She freaks out and is like, what? I think part of it is if I read the back of the books first instead of waiting until reading them with you, maybe I would have a greater understanding of why. Because I did think to myself while reading this book, why didn't one of her uber rich friends offer to put some of this on their credit cards? But I guess they're saying that they have some spending stipulations that are not communicated in the book, which kind of feels like that makes it bad. The book itself isn't bad, because I think it's reasonable as me, a middle-class person, to say, yeah, of course I wouldn't put my friend's decision to buy something on credit card that they can't afford. I've only ever done that once, where a friend of mine had to, and then I immediately gave the money back because I had the money. It was just stupid. My ballot of credit card and identity fraud with permission. But I had to, like, I've never thought about that. So to me, you didn't even need to put in the stipulation where, on the back of the book, where Alicia and Dylan can't spend money, because it would have been fine. But it also, the fact that you only know that if you read the back of the book, because sometimes the back of these books are jank. Like, I've been buying most of these books used, and for my other series as well, and I've had to get Gugon to remove the stickers on the back of the book, and sometimes they are just jank. It's jank. So, whatever. Massey gets removed from the store by security. So Massey doesn't have any clothing. Landon's still trying to get in touch with her. So she's been cutting up and restyling current items of clothing because she doesn't want to be an outfit repeater. And she doesn't want to wear any of Claire's clothing. A little sneaky peeky for what I have planned for the end of the series, which I want to do a video where, and please feel free to put it in the comments where you think they're doing now, and the comments of this video and any of my other Clique related videos, where I kind of do a where do I think they are now, what do I think they'd be doing. If they were 12 in 2004 for the purposes of this conversation, what do we think they're doing in 2023? They're like just 30, 31. And it's like, Massey, I feel like a part of me always wanted to say Massey was going to be like a business owner. I know she couldn't work for herself. She'd either be I kind of thought she might be an influencer. I think that's actually more of a track for Dylan is being an influencer, or Kirsten, because Kirsten's a little more relatable. But and then Kirsten would get like canceled because they'd be like, you went to a private school, and she's like, I went on a scholarship, crying in a YouTube video. But I think that Massey, and I think Lisi's trying to, posit that forward, that Massey would be a fashion designer, that she actually, it's not just her ability to buy clothing, it is her ability to make clothing. She doesn't know about sewing yet, but there's time to learn. She could do it. I truly believe that, like, with a little more firming up of her brain, she could be an active, like, small brand Emma Chamberlain, Gigi Hadid style fashion girly. But I think she'd be a little more like Mary-Kate and Ashley, making their own bespoke brand and not being the models for that. She's really devoted to fashion and trying to do things. She doesn't always have, the actual, like, fashion sewer, but I think she would hot glue gun some things in a way that was fancy. And then she might learn how to sew at some point. I think she would turn that fashion line into like a girl boss, I pulled myself up by my bootstrap type girl. And then she would just turn into my mortal enemy, Rachel Hollis. I think she'd be in a high profile marriage with an asshole and then get divorced and then be like, but you should still take my marriage advice and buy my book. The pretty committee would be about 30, 31 in these, in 2023. So let me know what you think, how the stars have panned out for them. You know, whatever. So many years into the future, let me know. Okay, so all of her credit cards are declined. She refuses to leave because, you know, why would her credit cards be declined? She gets hauled out by security. And the pretty committee's girls just watch in horror. Didn't this happen before? Did this happen to Dylan? Someone got removed by security. These girls are not going to be able to go to the Westchester Mall. They're going to be forced to go to Manhattan because they just cannot. They just cannot believe that they're seeing their alpha be dragged out of the mall. So now it's a Friday evening and we're reaching peak jawbreaker pinnacle of pain. Jawbreaker Claire. Jesus. So it's Friday evening and we are reaching peak jawbreaker Claire. Think Heather's Claire. Think Mean Girls Claire. Think, you know, all of them. Claire. She is, think of teenage girl female rage. White, obviously. Massey's being extra nasty. Todd is just trying to play Wii and Massey's just annoying, is annoying, is annoying, is annoyed. She can't put together. Claire goes back upstairs. Cam compares her to Joan of Arc. There's a lot of references to Kings of Leon for some reason. Do they buy a spot in this book to get into the minds of young girls? Was Lacey Harrelson going through a Kings of Leon phase? Maybe one of her children was listening to it. I don't know. Claire refers to herself as Claire of Arc because she's in her Joan of Arc revenge plot. Lane is like, that's exactly what we need to do. Start a revolution. That's it, she declared as she and Lane reached into the room. So what if Massey had more money and better comebacks? Claire and Lane and Cam and her mom and her dad. She was down to earth in affordable fashion sense and a new pair of lime green Keds that she had found on sale. And with those weapons at her disposal, she would usher in a new era of kindness and consideration, where it wasn't which designer name was on the sole of your shoes that mattered, but the actual quality of your soul. Claire closed the door and booted up her iTunes. The room was instantly filled with the notes of Snow Patrol's song, the first track of the Wintry Mix CD that Cam had made for her. Lane, she said, punching the air with her fist, the current administration has had us under its thumb for far too long. Obama? I like him. Think smaller, Lane. Principal Burns? Smaller. Think of the girl who is, as we speak, unrolling designer sleeping bags in my living room. Ah, the old blockade. Don't you think it's time for a change? Down with the massarchy. Lassie cried. Lassie cried. Lane cried. No more shavings of poor defenseless little brothers. No more snide comments about affordable footwear. No more lice storms. No more efforts to control the hearts, minds, and crushes of the common 8th grader, Claire said defiantly. Claire jumped off the bed and pulled the light green shade off the lamp, putting it on her head like a helmet, and began marching. Let's dulce their cabanas. Let's kick them in their Guccis. Drop poos on their shoes. On their chews. Let's sneeze on their silk tees. Let's wham bam them in their lamb. But there's one thing. Claire paused and clasped her hands over her heart, a stand she had seen on the text Cam had sent. We need to get the message to the people. Done. I'll get Bond Dog to help set up a rally, and I'll Facebook every girl I know. Claire tapped her nose. Perfect. Baby hand, where are you? Perfect. But we need a slogan. No great campaign is successful without one. Kindness melts your heart, not your hands, Lane suggested, still typing intently on her iPhone. Claire tugged her bangs. What about the block stops here? Lacks pizzazz. Maybe something with your name? Lane screwed up her face like a baby getting ready to take a poo. I've got it, she shouted seconds later. A dawn of a new Clara. Get it? Claire era, but pronounced Clara. Claire clapped her hands. Ooh, I like it. Don't you think it's a little too me-centric? It's you-centric in a good way. You embody all the qualities of our cause. Down to earth, nice on a budget. Will you be my second in command? I'll have a pretty full schedule with wax lip bracelet making and cyber stalking art from the lizard store. What exactly does this position entail? We need a manifesto. But yeah, cool, we got there. Did I say when? So it's the dawn of a new Clara. Thou shalt put an end in bad friend. Thou shalt not interfere with my friendships by spreading lice rumors or anything of the kind. Thou shalt not say my name in vain. Thou shalt not uphold comfort over couture. Thou shalt uphold comfort over couture. Thou shalt not think less of me for being middle class. Thou shalt not judge me on the amount of my allowance. Thou shalt not tell me where I can sit at lunch. Freedom to graze must be granted. Thou shalt not turn my friends against me during a fight. Thou shalt not covet my crush. Thou shalt not roll your eyes and talk about empty calories when sugar is imbibed. Good work, said Claire. Good work, Claire said, reading over the list. Now we should probably take an oath and promise to forever live by and uphold these ideals. Lane held out her hand. Friends forever, enemies never. No matter the weather, always together. No matter what you wear, I will always be there. And we will live by these rules in and out of middle school. The dawn of a new Clara. So, that's what we're on in this book. My candle has not been burning very, heavily today, so it's weird. So, domestic terrorism takes place. Massey throws a fit about Todd playing the Wii while she's on the phone. She can't let Landon see her like this. Alicia, Kirsten, and Dylan all appear with their bags of clothing, but they're stretched out and changed and whatever because they're actually being, items of clothing that are being worn. She's pissed because they're not truly her designer duds. And it's giving summer even though it's winter. She's really mean to her friends. I don't know, I wouldn't take that. I've said that many times, but it's even in middle school, I wouldn't have taken that. Dylan brings snacks from her mom's, whatchamacallit, from a PR basket her mom gets, and oh my god, Massey held up a slouchy shoulder poof dress in lime green sateen. This is so 1982. Actually, Kirsten corrected her. It was 2009 when we all decided to dress like it was 1982. Massey pulled out a pair of pointy-toed knee-high boots while Kirsten put on a pair of chunky gold hoop earrings. Look! I'm the ghost of Christmas fashions past, Dylan intoned in a low voice, draping a lavender pashmina over her head. Gross, Massey said, holding up a pair of yoga pants. I can't wear these. They're too stretched out. Dylan paused, a big piece of peppermint bark halfway into her mouth. She sucked in her stomach. Hey! Massey held up a beige sweater. No wonder I lent this to you, Kirsten. It works well on boxy boyish figures. Excuse me? Kirsten squeezed her sides in an attempt to form an hourglass figure. Leash? Massey said, throwing the sweater onto her reject pile and picking up a Theory t-shirt bra. Theory bra tee. Why don't you look into a minimizer? Your left boob imprints are sagging my shirt. Kirsten narrowed her eyes. Dylan pinched a piece of popcorn until it shattered, and Alicia crossed her arms over her C-cups. If I wanted to be put through torture, I'd hit a Coach outlet store on a Sunday before Christmas. Maybe you should, so you can stop borrowing my clothes and turning them into camel covers. Massey heard how mean the words were. She registered the anger on her friends' faces, but it felt like she was a shaking can of Coke Zero. Her anger tab had been popped open, and there was no stopping the spray of insults. Dylan, You're worried about the junk in your trunk? Stop eating junk food. And Kirsten, if you want to look like a girl, for God's sake, get some highlights and stop wearing sneakers. That's it. Alicia grabbed her magazines. I'm out of here. Same, Kirsten shouted. Guys like my junk, Dylan snarled, balling up a bag of popcorn into her hands. As though watching an episode of The Hills where Audrina and Heidi had yet another falling out, Massey watched, oddly detached, as the three girls gathered up their things and marched through the door. A chill filled the room, and that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. Clara's face peered around the edges of the steps. She was holding a clipboard, looking incredibly smug. Lane appeared behind her. Hear ye, hear ye. Okay, so for the purposes of this, I can kind of go through this very quickly. They then yell the rules that I just described to Massey, and she's just like, they're annoying. They're very annoying. And they're just yelling it. And Massey's like, I don't want to hear this right now. My friends just broke up with me. She's like screaming down the hall. She goes upstairs. Claire gives Gabby getting broken up with, where she clearly doesn't want to hear the speech, and Zach is determined to say it to her. Massey is literally having a full breakdown, and Lang and Claire are just like, you're gonna hear us, you're gonna hear our words. She goes upstairs into Claire's room and refuses to come out. She listens to Claire's show tunes, and she is not defying gravity. She is not feeling it. She's not feeling Alphaba Fresh. It is not a good time. So, next morning, Claire goes to her Clara rally where both people from OCD and Briarwood show up. Claire is like, it's the end of the Brady Committee. You know, don't be LBRs. Live your life the way you want to. Again, my big issue with this is that it doesn't take, if your feminism doesn't take into account women who like being soft, delicate things. Like, you're not fighting for their rights to live exactly as you want to live. You are fighting for their rights to make that decision to live however they want to live. And if your feminism, if your activism does not cover the entire range of womanhood, then it's not good feminism. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Fuck TERFs. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Conservative women, you're on thin ice. Like, you know, we're African Americans and Mark. And if, you know, Mark's rocking with us, so we're rocking with Mark. If you're not rocking with us, conservative women, then you need to get out. And I'm always going to have an issue with that because there's this layer of media from the late 2000s where it's like, we're girly. We're not like Barbie. We're different. If you can't tell, I've started my Bratz rewatch for that series coming this summer. And it can be a little annoying where they're like, they just like persecute pink as like a lazy shorthand for girly, where I'm like, these bitches are literally wearing like pink dresses. Like, they're wearing dresses, they're just not pink. So there's a level of like anti-girly, and I think that's partially the revivalism of like Barbie core and the color pink. Valentino pink has been so prevalent, is the backlash of like millennials being like, we're too good for pink. Barbie, Disney princess, never heard of her, I'm too good for that. And then the swing back around with older Gen Z being like, actually, you can still enjoy pink and enjoy other, you know, feminine things without it being like culture war. We're always gonna have culture war about pink and about girly stuff and about stay-at-home moms and about people who want to be taken care of and, you know, who benefits from pretty privilege and being attractive enough that a man wants to take care of you. There's many conversation to be had about that, but this reductionist ass take where they're like, wear sweatpants, you know you want to, instead of being like, wear what you want, you know you want to. is a little, it's always going to make me a little crazy as a person who, for funsies, loves to show up in a cut crease. Claire's like, no more social persecution. Leave the losers alone. It's time. The Claire Revolution is giving people the power to the people. So, Massey stays in Claire's room all weekend. She stays in Claire's bed, in her sheets, and now it's Monday morning. Massey's looking ridiculous. She gets an email from her parents that I want to read. Page, drop the bookmark. To Massey, from Mom and Dad. Subject, hi. Hello, darling. You and Claire must be having a great time. It's bright and sunny every day here. We got you and Bean matching leis. The boat is so lovely. How fun would it be on to live for like a year? We'll be home tomorrow. Air kisses, Mom and Dad. P.S. We tried calling last night. Judy said you were out cold. Must be all the fun you and Claire are having. Pay attention to what was said there. You want to live on a boat? She comes downstairs. She looks bad. It is nondescript, but it is understood. It's not like Lacey can be like, oh yes, her face is puffy. It's nothing like that. Massey has lost her sparkle. She is friendless and sparkleless. She looks bad without all of her fancies and niceties, but her niceties are also her friends. They're the greatest accessory a girl can have. Claire's mom has taken Massey's like clothing abomination that she's been wearing, cut up clothing abomination that she's been wearing for the last couple of days, because she's been wearing it for a couple of days, so it's gonna get stinky. You gotta wash your stuff. Massey has available is Claire's closet. Claire leaves early, and she took all of her clothing with her. All that's left is a pair of overalls and a little baby pink tee. She refuses. Massey's like, bad sushi, can't go to school. And then Claire's mom just lets her. Honestly, Massey is such an emotional handful that I also would not let her. I also wouldn't fight her. I would just let her be a bad child. Not my responsibility. Also, while at dinner, Massey tells Todd that Santa's not real. This will come, the reader will remember this. So Claire is at school, you know, Massey's not here. It is a dawn of a new Clara. They've got this little hand thing that they do that actually is so much fun. I wish I had done that with the pilot books. But it's flex, see, peace. I've been practicing that since I read it because I was a Hunger Games girly. Just like, oh my god. Oh my god. So, bam, bam, bam. Fuck. That was not the correct order. Nope. The peace sign makes more sense. It's Claire. That I think is really cute. Flexing the bicep. Flexing the bicep. C. Peace sign. Very Hunger Games. Very Suzanne Collins. I love how even when I can't read my notes right away, I've only had like 3 thoughts ever. The girls are showing up in comfort of a couture. They're eating calories. They're having fun. They're all talking about the new Clara. How many pages do I have left? 1, 2, 3. Cool. And they're pretty straight down. And then the pretty committee, sans Massey, appears. It's lunchtime. And Alicia has this moment of like, stick to the status quo here. She's just like, this is not what I want. This is not what I planned. And I just gotta say, I do not understand. I'm in my Sharpay era. Something is really, something's not right, really wrong. Yes, in my Sharpay era. In my Ryan and Sharpay era. Not in my Sharpay era, I'm in my cringe era. they have a moment where they're like, absolutely not, stick to the status quo. I don't know what you think is happening, but it needs to not be happening. So they go to stake claim on table 18, the Pretty Committee's designated table. And Strawberry and Corey, you know, veritable background characters of yore, are like, you are not going to kick us off this table. We're keeping the table. Corey and Strawberry stand up to them by spraying acetone on their manicures, and they freak out, which is so thin. It's such a, like, Lacey Harrelson was not interested, or her editor, whoever, was not interested in writing this book from their, you know, points of view. And the fact that they just kind of immediately are like, okay, we're mad at Massey, rightfully so. And then immediately are like, Massey! Seems kind of weak. I don't know. Dylan from a couple of books ago had a personality. She simply would have suplexed that girl. But whatever. They're all in their paper cuts era. Because Massey, this is a Massey paper cut. Okay, they are all in their paper cutout eras because this is a Massey versus Claire book. They reclaim LBR and change it to Let's Be Real. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, take your B-reels. And Claire is feeling on top of the world because the LBRs stood their ground against the Pretty Committee. The Pretty Committee immediately texts Massey and is like, you gotta come back. Things are crazy. Things are bad. And they immediately kowtow to her. They're like, sorry, sorry, sorry. Again, as I previously stated, that hat never stays on. Massey's here, and then she's like, sorry I called you a fat cow, a big-titted idiot, and a fucking boy. All things that you're very insecure about. And they're just like, oh my god, we're so sorry we had a stomach, boobs, and, you know, the body of a 13-year-old because she's 13, you know? Like, I just can't with it all the time. But, like, they're like, you don't need to be sorry to her. She's mean. She's awful. You don't need to be loyal to someone who's mean and awful to you all. Truly internalize this from this series, is you don't have to take it. So they sent her a video of the girls being real, and Massey is like, oh shit. So she takes Bean out for a walk. Bean sprints, goes running. They run into Landon. Landon's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a couple days. Are you, like, avoiding me? And he's like, actually, I want to apologize to you. I know it's totally lame that I video chat with my grandparents. And she's like, I thought you thought I was a floozy. And he's like, well, would I have continued to keep trying to contact you if I thought you were a slut? And she's like, well, you know, I don't know. I feel like Massey would, in fact, cyberbully people. In her, like, young adult, in her, like, early Instagram years, she would definitely be cyberbullying people Kim Kardashian style. And if you don't know about that, apparently there's, like, beef between Kim Kardashian and Hailey Duff, in which she's like, you slut. And it's like, this woman was 27 years old. Sending this to someone who was like 22. And they do it via email. It's crazy. And she's like, I don't know. I guess it never crossed my mind. And he's like, well, I'm home from school because I'm sick. Why are you home? And she's like, I had a project from school. And he's like, well, kiss, maybe? And he's like, actually, no, maybe we shouldn't because I'm sick. And, he's like, maybe we shouldn't kiss because I'm sick. And she's like, whatever. I'm gonna kiss that. And so, Landon and Massey kiss again. Like, as far as the future, Massey definitely, I have a feeling that Massey definitely gave a loved one COVID. She gave Kendra COVID. Massey's feeling energized after her kiss. And now it's time to take down the insurrection at OCD. So it's Tuesday. Massey has, in fact, put down the insurrection simply by just being there. She's very efficient. We didn't even get to see it, which is kind of boring because it's like, we're running out of pages of this multiple series. I want to know. It's sad watching all these girls that are back to dressing up, and the ones that aren't are being actively hunted down by Massey. This return to the status quo is painted as good. I don't know. I feel like, it feels like it is what was going to happen. It feels inevitable. I believe that between the two girls I contain magnitude, but Massey Block is the one that makes it unappealing because it's prison. It's not, it's not fun to be girly in a world where Massey Block is totally controlling who is what and where and what is style and what is comfortability. Massey does something even worse to Claire than actively antagonizing her. She ignores her. 77. Anger washed over Claire from the roots of her blonde hair down to the tips of her lime green kids. Her revolution was fading faster than a fake tan right before her eyes, but as the sweats-wearing 7th graders put in special orders for overalls, the anger turned into a tidal wave of sadness, not because the sweats girls were choosing Massey, but because Claire couldn't. No matter how many bugs they had put in Massey's bed, or whether she had truly humiliating lip kiss, or was kicked out of her house, or separated from all her possessions, Massey had the ability to rise from the ashes, to take a pair of overalls, used gross denim, and turn them into something beautiful. It was inspiring. Yeah, in the same way like a girl boss war criminal is inspiring, but it doesn't make it right or good. Oh my god, Hillary Clinton. Oh my god, Condoleezza Rice. Margaret Thatcher. Like, Massey's able to wield control like Republicans who barely have control over the goddamn House. This is a very political episode. I'm so sorry to those of you who do not subscribe to American politics. It's been a tough week, man. So, today's special. Massey gets home. She gets to go to her home. Her parents will be home. She's so excited. Is it possible, Isaac, to wear every item of clothing all at once? She gets home and skips into her living room. Her parents are sitting there looking devastated. Massey's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And her parents, she's like, you guys don't look down. You guys don't look down. And they're like, yeah, that was a lie. We did not go to the Bahamas. They were up at the Hamptons selling the Hampton house. And it's not because they're buying a new one. No, no, no. It's because of the 2008 housing crisis has finally caught up to them. The recession got them. They've taken some financial hits. And I'm sure Massey spending money like it was burning a hole in her hand did not help. So they're running out of money. Kendra reached out and patted Massey's hand. Everyone's lost money recently, honey. It's affected the whole world. Massey's entire body felt cold. She stared at her father. Like how much money? Her own voice sounded hollow, even to her own ears. Her father smiled at Massey, but his eyebrows crinkled the way they did when he was worried. The room was completely silent. Suddenly there came a crazy, high-pitched dog whistle-tone scream. Massey reached her hands up to plug her ears and then realized that she was the one screaming. She slapped her hands over her mouth and forced herself to swallow her scream. It settled into a hard ball in her stomach. They were kidding. Of course they were kidding. They had to be kidding. This was some sort of elaborate ruse they'd concocted on the plane back to New York. A little welcome home joke before they presented their beloved daughter with her brand new yacht. She had to calm down. Fire, breathe in. Fire, breathe out. Fire, breathe in. Fire, breathe out. Fire, breathe out. Massey does some self-soothing. She panics and is just... They talk about all the little changes they're going to have to do, and Massey's freaking out because who's gonna like have to go? Is Isaac gonna go? Is Inez gonna have to go? What would she tell Landon? What was she gonna do? What was she gonna tell the pretty committee? What's going on? Massey cries a lot in these books. I would say Massey has cried in these last books particularly. She might have even, I don't think she cries in Bratfest for Tiffany because she still had her friends in that book. But these have all ended. All of these books have ended with a friend conflict in which she cries. It went from like the first book where she never cried to like cry. Massey cries. Yeah. So Claire is told what happens to Massey, and she's like, oh my god, they hit the second tower. It is 9/11. It is 9/11 2.0 for Massey. And so Claire's like, I'm gonna go be a good friend. I'm going to bury the hatchet. I'm gonna be the bigger person, as she always is, in the most annoying way possible. She's like, I'm gonna be... She's still got water in her head. You're gonna be a little mole creature. I'm gonna have to take you outside and let that evaporate. She brings some candy gummies and a copy of Gossip Girl on DVD, and she's like, I'm gonna help her feel better. She walks in and Massey's like, I'm not poor. I don't know what you're talking about. And don't you tell anyone that you even think that I'm poor. Get out of here. Claire's slapped. She's essentially like, get out of my house, fuck you. Claire is slapped, not physically, but emotionally by the words that she has said. Like, with the rudeness. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, what do you say to that when you try to bury the olive branch with someone and they just slap you in the face with it? So in our last chapter, Massey's trying to pep herself up because she's not telling her friends that she's poor, going through financial difficulties. And she's like, I've never not told my friends things, so how am I supposed to go through with that? She's gotten up at the pizza parlor multiple times to cry in the bathroom and reapply makeup. She questions how Kirsten did it for so long. Like, she comes back to the table where the 9th grade crushes are. They're back on a discussion about Vampire Weekend being the new Kings of Leon, which is correct. I love Vampire Weekend. Naming off indie bands, and the girls are hanging out with the 9th grade crushes. It's truly wild that they got rid of these boys. We really have not seen anyone except for Cam. Since the girls have their big removal from their crushes. Very interesting. And it's also, there's no real difference between 9th grade boys and 8th grade boys. They're both still fucking annoying. And they're both idiot meatheads. Todd and Claire come into the pizza place to get a pizza. Todd's like, you should probably sell your hair because you're so fucking poor. He's very mad at her for killing Santa. And they're like, she's poor? Are you sure about that, Todd? And Todd's like, yeah, that's Claire. And Claire's like, Massey's like, shit. If you're looking for extra cash, Todd went on, maybe you should think about selling your hair. You know, you could shave your head. He looked at her pointedly. Massey tried to laugh, but it was no use. The world had begun to go blurry at the edges. She held onto her seat to keep from slipping under the table. She started to sweat in her favorite sequins peach and Alice and Olivia's sweater, which was especially awful because she could no longer afford to have it dry cleaned. Just as she was wondering if she could fan her pits, she realized everyone was waiting for her response. "He's probably just had too much Red Bull," Massey said finally. "He's hopped up on caffeine and hallucinating." Todd shook his head. "It's you who's hallucinating, if you think your friends aren't going to find out that you're more broke than the Hubble telescope." "He's lying," Dylan scoffed. "Right, Mass?" "Right," Massey said, but she knew her voice sounded thinner than her now-canceled visa. Kirsten looked oddly excited. "You think I'm lying? Ask my sister." "Tell them, Claire," Todd called. Everyone turned to Claire, who was fiddling with the Parmesan shaker at the condiment table. Massey wiped her palms on her jeans. The problem was Claire could confirm Todd's story, and why wouldn't she, after Massey had said to her Massey would do it? For what felt like the 20th time that day, Massey took an enormous breath and held it. "Massey is a horrible person," Claire would say, "and now she can't even afford to pay her friends to like her like she did before." "Todd's right," Claire said, staring straight at Massey. Bile rose in Massey's throat. This was it. She should sell her hair. She'd make a fortune. Not that she needs the money. "Oh," Kirsten said, looking kind of disappointed. "Then it's not true?" Everybody at the table sat back deflated. Claire walked to the table. "You know Todd's always scheming. He's been playing too much World of Warcraft, and his next target is the Block family." "That's lame," Jackson said, crossing his skinny jeaned legs. "Yeah, not cool, man," Scott said, shaking his head. Todd looked back and forth between Massey and Claire as if he couldn't believe he had been had by two girls who weren't even on speaking terms. So, the pizza gets called, and so I wrote notes when I first started reading this before I went back to do my second read through to make notes, because I was really feeling this book. This book is a good one. Lacey Hamilton took one look at the prolonged fallout of the 2008 housing crisis, the impending recession, and said, let me put that in my book made for 12-year-olds looking for an escape. There's a bit in there where Massey refers to some of the LBRs as queer leaders, and this book I was actually really impressed by some of the language. At the sleepover, Lainey puts a snack to her mouth, and Claire goes, "Aha! If you don't stop eating that, you're gonna get fat," essentially. And then that doesn't fly well with the new friends, and she's like, "Sorry." And Claire is like, looks back on it and goes, "That was fat-phobic." She uses the term fat-phobic, and I'm like, in 2010? Written by this bitch? Oh my god. Go, girl. Also some wildly homophobic shit, like 2014 Oberfell could not have come faster. So Massey gets 9/11, her second tower hits. Massey, while looking at all of her friends, is just like, do these girls even know the privilege they have? With their $1,000 blowouts and their $400 necklaces. And she's like, do they know? Do they know? And she's like, Kirsten knows. And lastly, you should never live your life in a way in which your friend, your actual godforsaken friend, is happy at the idea that you might be poor. Finger wagging, autism stimming excitement that you might be poor. Never comport your life like that. Claire and Todd walk out of the pizza shop, and we get our last quote, and I will read it to you. Massey swallowed, watching as Claire pushed the front door open and strutted outside. The Lions minivan was idling at the curb. Claire turned towards the window as she slipped inside, and in that moment, Massey realized something. Claire was beautiful. Not in a supermodel with eyelash extensions kind of way, not in a try hard the hills kind of way. Claire was beautiful in the way that belongs to people who know who they are. Hot tears prickled the back of Massey's eyes. The table had fallen back into happy chatter. The boys discussed more alternative bands, while Alicia, Dylan, and Kirsten wondered when they would get another snow day. "You okay?" Landon whispered. Bad pizza. I'll be right back. Massey slipped out of her seat and walked quickly to the bathroom. Once in the stall, she pulled out her phone. Thank you. The answer came right back. Claire. Truce? In that moment, Claire's friendship meant more to Massey than any lost closet of couture. Truce. See you at home. Massey sighed and held the phone close to her chest, wondering how much longer she'd be able to say that. Never live your life in a way where your friends are cheering for you to be fucking broke. So that's the way the book ended, and it's 1 o'clock. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when I was writing these. I was very tired. At the time, I said 4 out of 10, 4 out of 5. This time I'm saying 4 out of 5. I would say, like, on a 10 scale, I would say it's about a 7 out of 10. I don't know, it's really good. It was good. Like, my brain is melted. It's a book that ups the ante. She's mean, and there are consequences. There are cosmic consequences to how mean and nasty she is. This book had a very narrow focus of the war between Claire and Massey, so you didn't really have to worry about what Alicia, Kirsten, and Dylan thought, but they also don't have any kind of... I truly believe Dylan would have just threatened to eat that girl who sprayed her with acetone, not be like, eee, my manicure! But they just needed to, like, quickly get rid of those girls out of the plot. It would have been easier to say that Dylan and Alicia were taking like a Christmas break, and that like Kirsten was hanging out with like her soccer friends or something to get them out of the plot, instead of having them be there and be cutouts, especially after so many books of them being characters. Like, you really go back to like the first couple of books where it was like the only girls that were characters was Massey, Claire, and Alicia. And Alicia was only a character because she was the villain of like 2 of those books. Like, we no longer hear about Dylan's crush on Darrington. We know it's 8th grade and these people aren't going to end up together, but it's very interesting that it's just stripped away all the characterization we talked about in the first 5 books. We stripped back the characterization like in the first 5 books. Because remember, they weren't even in Dial for Loser. That is purely a Alicia, Massey, Claire book. Boys peeking in Boys R Us. There's only 1 book left, so we're almost done. That's crazy, honestly, that we're here. That some of you have been here from the beginning. Some of you are just joining me, and I appreciate you being here. And you devote like a good bit of your time, because I forget that my videos are an hour long sometimes. Sometimes an hour and a half. I am an investment, and you have invested in me, and I am so glad. If you want little niblets of investing, you can follow me on Megan_blush_ on everything. Anything I can get that username on, I'ma try. There will be Bachelorette content coming in June, Drag Race content coming in late May. Actually, the Drag Race content should be out the same week as this content. We will probably be moving to a 2-video-a-week schedule, just so that I can get topical content that is related to the shows I'm watching, as well as getting stuff that is filmed in advance for the dolls and books to come out. The summer series, if you didn't know, is talking about Bratz dolls. Currently we're talking about LOL Surprise dolls, but those videos they'll be filmed now, and then they will be resumed back in August when we're no longer in my summertime. Yeah. It's just a good time. We got 1 more book left. With the completion of the last book, the poll will come out where I ask you guys what series you want me to cover next. On hand, I have all 3 books in Zoe Dean's Talent series, if you're familiar with that. I also have Zoe Dean's The A-Listers. I have the first 3 books in that. That's a big series, like big. Ooh. I also have Gossip Girl and Pretty Little Liars over there. And then I have I have a one-off book that I can read. We will be finishing Secrets of My Hollywood Life while we were on a break. I don't think I will start a new series until fall, late fall. But, yeah, you know, this has taken up a year of my life, and it's so weird that it's no longer going to be doing that anymore. But, you know, it is what it is. So the sting for the next book should be happening next, and that's it. Bye, y'all. Bye. I have an end card. Bye. Alright. We're doing this a little out of order. So, the last book in the Clique series. Oh my god. 14 months of work. Boiling down to our last video. Well, not our last video. Our last book, because I plan on talking about a lot of things, but like, we are coming up on the end of this. Oh my god. So, last book in the Clique series that we will be reading for the month of May. I believe it's coming out in May. A Tale of Two Pretties. Oh my god. Everything's coming to a head. Everything's changing. Yup.